The morning was cold and grey as Emily Parker arrived at the gas station, the early light barely penetrating the overcast sky. Riverside, a small town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, was just waking up. The gas station, situated on the outskirts, was a lifeline for commuters and locals alike. Emily pulled her jacket tighter around her, bracing against the chill as she unlocked the door. Inside, the station was dimly lit, the fluorescent lights flickering to life as she flipped the switches. She moved through the familiar space with practiced ease, her footsteps echoing softly on the linoleum floor. The scent of gasoline mixed with the faint aroma of stale coffee, a combination that had become a part of her daily life over the past 10 years. Emily hung her jacket on the hook in the small break room and put on her blue uniform shirt with the station's logo embroidered on the pocket. She glanced at the photo of her teenage daughter, Lucy, and her mother, Mary, pinned to the bulletin board. Their smiling faces were a constant reminder of why she worked so hard. With a deep breath, she stepped out to the front counter, ready to start the day. John was already there, his face set in its usual frown, as he adjusted the pumps outside. He was a man of few words, his gruff demeanor a barrier that most people didn't bother to breach. Emily had learned to navigate his moodiness over the years, knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. "Morning, John," she greeted, her voice breaking the stillness. John grunted in response, not looking up from his task. Emily didn't take it personally. This was their routine. Sarah arrived shortly after, her bright smile and cheerful energy a stark contrast to John's gloominess. She bounced through the door, shaking off the cold and rubbing her hands together. "Hey, Emily, cold one today, huh?" Sarah said, her breath visible in the frigid air. "Sure is," Emily replied, returning the smile. "Ready for another exciting day?" Sarah laughed, a light sound that seemed to brighten the room. "Always." The morning rush began as the first few customers trickled in, commuters stopping for fuel and coffee on their way to work. Emily moved through her tasks methodically, ringing up purchases, making small talk with regulars, and ensuring the shelves were stocked. Between customers, Emily's thoughts drifted to Lucy and Mary. Lucy was a bright and determined 16-year-old, balancing school and a part-time job to help out at home. Mary, though her health was declining, remained a pillar of strength for both of them. Emily's dedication to her family fueled her, giving her purpose and drive. "Hey, Emily, can you give me a hand with these?" Sarah called from the back, struggling with a stack of heavy boxes. "Sure thing," Emily replied, heading to the storage room. Together they moved the boxes to the front, filling the shelves with snacks and supplies. "How's Lucy doing?" Sarah asked as they worked, her tone genuinely curious. Emily smiled, thinking of her daughter. "She's good, busy with school and work, but she's handling it well. I'm really proud of her." "I bet she gets her work ethic from you," Sarah said, nudging Emily playfully. "Maybe, I guess," Emily said, appreciating the compliment. "How about you? Any plans for the weekend?" "Just the usual. Spending time with family, maybe catching a movie," Sarah replied. "Nothing too exciting." The hours passed in a steady rhythm, each task a small piece of the larger routine that made up Emily's day. As the clock neared noon, the morning rush slowed, giving her a moment to catch her breath. John walked in, his face still set in a perpetual scowl. "Lunch break," he grumbled, heading to the break room without another word. Sarah rolled her eyes at his retreating back. "He really needs to lighten up." "That's just John," Emily said with a shrug. "He's been through a lot." Sarah nodded, her expression softening. "Yeah, I suppose we all have our burdens." Emily returned to her post, her mind wandering once more. The steady flow of customers, the hum of the pumps, the clinking of the cash register. It all blended into the background of her life. Yet, amidst the monotony, there was a sense of stability, a routine that kept her grounded. As she glanced out the window, the clouds began to part, allowing a sliver of sunlight to break through. It was a small moment of brightness in an otherwise grey day, much like the small acts of kindness and dedication that filled Emily's life. The doorbell chimed, signaling the entrance of another customer. Emily looked up from the register to see an elderly man shuffling in, his clothes slightly ragged and worn. His face was etched with lines of hardship, and he carried a small, frayed bag over his shoulder. The man's eyes, though weary, held a glimmer of hope as he scanned the gas station's interior. Emily felt a pang of hesitation. The company had a strict policy against allowing homeless individuals inside, a rule designed to maintain order and avoid potential conflicts. She glanced at John, who was stocking shelves nearby. His perpetual scowl deepened as he noticed the newcomer. "Emily, you know the rules," John muttered under his breath, barely looking up from his task. Emily's heart sank. She understood the reasoning behind the policy, but something about the man's demeanor tugged at her conscience. She watched as he slowly approached the counter, his steps hesitant and unsure. "Good morning," Emily greeted, her voice gentle but cautious. "Can I help you with something?" The man's eyes met hers, and he managed a weak smile. "Morning, ma'am. I was wondering if I could get something to eat." Her heart ached at his humble request. Emily knew she was risking her job by helping him, but she couldn't turn him away. "What's your name?" she asked softly. "Lucas," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Lucas Thompson." "Well, Lucas," Emily said, glancing around to ensure John was occupied. "Come on in, and I'll get you something to eat." John shot her a warning look, but Emily ignored it. She led Lucas to a small table in the corner, far from the prying eyes of other customers. She quickly prepared a sandwich and a cup of coffee, placing them in front of him. "Thank you, ma'am," Lucas said, his voice filled with gratitude. He took a small bite of the sandwich, savoring each morsel. "You're very kind," Emily smiled, sitting across from him. "It's Emily, and it's no trouble at all. Can you tell me a bit about yourself?" Lucas sighed, taking a sip of his coffee. "I've been on the road for a while now. Lost my job a few years back, and things just went downhill from there. I've been trying to get back on my feet, but it's hard, you know." Emily nodded, listening intently. She saw the weariness in his eyes, the marks of a life that had taken too many hard turns. "Do you have any family around here?" Lucas shook his head. "No, not really. My wife passed away a few years ago. We never had any kids, it's just me now." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She couldn't imagine the loneliness he must feel. "I'm sorry to hear that," she said softly, "but you're not alone right now." Lucas looked up, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Thank you, Emily. It means a lot to hear that." They sat in silence for a few moments, the hum of the gas station providing a comforting backdrop. Emily felt a strong urge to do more for Lucas, to help him beyond just this one meal. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a few bills, sliding them across the table. "Here," she said, her voice firm. "This should be enough for a bus fare. It'll get you to a shelter or somewhere you can rest." Lucas stared at the money, his hands trembling as he picked it up. "I can't take this," he protested. "You've already done so much." "Please," Emily insisted. "I want to help. Take it and get yourself somewhere safe." Lucas's eyes filled with gratitude as he accepted the money. "Thank you, Emily. I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to," Emily replied with a smile. "Just take care of yourself, okay?" Lucas nodded, rising slowly from the table. I will, and I'll never forget your kindness. Emily watched as he shuffled out of the gas station, her heart heavy but hopeful. She knew she had done the right thing, even if it meant facing consequences later. As she turned back to her duties, she caught John's eye. His expression was stern, but he said nothing. Emily knew there would be repercussions, but in that moment, she felt at peace. She had made a difference, however small, in Lucas's life. Carlos watched from behind the counter, his eyes narrowing as he observed the interaction between Emily and Lucas. He saw her lead the elderly man to a table, offer him food, and even hand over some cash. Carlos's disapproval was palpable. The rules were clear, and Emily was blatantly disregarding them. As Lucas left the gas station, Carlos approached Emily, his face a mask of irritation. Emily, you know the policy about letting homeless people in here, he said, his tone sharp. Emily met his gaze, her expression calm but firm. I know, Carlos, but he was hungry and he needed help. I couldn't just turn him away. Carlos shook his head, his frustration mounting. That's not our job. Our job is to follow the rules. And you broke them. Without another word, Carlos turned on his heel and marched to the back office. Emily watched him go, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She knew what was coming next. Carlos knocked on the office door, and Armando Vega, their boss, looked up from his paperwork. Come in, Armando said, his voice curt. Carlos entered and closed the door behind him. Armando, we have a problem, he began, his voice low. Emily just let a homeless guy into the store, fed him, and gave him money. Armando's expression darkened. Did she? Yes, Carlos confirmed. She completely disregarded the company policy. Armando sighed, rubbing his temples. Thank you, Carlos. I'll handle it. The rest of the day passed in a blur for Emily. She tried to focus on her tasks, but her mind kept drifting back to the encounter with Lucas and the inevitable fallout. She knew Armando would hear about it, and she dreaded the conversation that was sure to follow. That night, Emily barely slept. Her thoughts were consumed with worry about what would happen next. She thought about Lucy and Mary and the precarious balance she maintained to support them. The fear of losing her job gnawed at her, making sleep impossible. The next morning, Emily arrived at the gas station early, hoping to get through the day without incident. Her hopes were dashed when Armando called her into his office as soon as she walked through the door. Emily, we need to talk, he said, his voice devoid of warmth. Emily nodded, her heart pounding. She followed him into the small office and sat down, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. Carlos told me about what happened yesterday, Armando began, his tone stern. You know we have a policy against allowing homeless individuals inside the store. I know, Armando, Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. But he needed help. I couldn't just turn him away. Armando sighed heavily, leaning back in his chair. Emily, I understand your compassion, but rules are rules. We have these policies for a reason. You put the store at risk by not following them. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes, but she blinked them back. I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Armando shook his head slowly. I wish it were that simple. But this isn't the first time you've bent the rules. I have to think about the business, and I can't have employees who don't follow the guidelines. Please, Armando, Emily pleaded, her voice breaking. I need this job. My daughter and my mother depend on me. Armando's expression softened slightly, but his resolve remained firm. I'm truly sorry, Emily, but I have to let you go. The words hit Emily like a physical blow. She felt the world spin around her, the weight of his decision crashing down on her. She struggled to find her voice, but the reality of her situation left her speechless. "Please gather your things," Armando said quietly. "You'll receive your final paycheck by mail." Numb and heartbroken, Emily stood and left the office. She moved through the gas station in a daze, collecting her personal items from the break room. As Emily walked out of the gas station for the last time, the cold morning air hit her like a slap. She wrapped her coat tightly around herself, her mind racing with worry about what she would tell Lucy and Mary. The thought of failing them was unbearable. Emily stepped off the bus, her heart heavy with dread. The short walk to her modest house felt like an eternity. She paused at the front door, took a deep breath, and stepped inside. The familiar warmth of home enveloped her, but it did little to ease the anxiety gnawing at her. "Mom, you're home early," Lucy's voice called from the living room. Her 16-year-old daughter appeared in the hallway, her face lighting up with a smile. The sight of Lucy's bright eyes and youthful energy always brought Emily a sense of comfort. "Hi, sweetie," Emily said, forcing a smile. "Where's Grandma?" "In the kitchen," Lucy replied, her smile fading as she studied her mother's face. "Are you okay?" Emily nodded, but her eyes betrayed her. "Let's go sit down. I need to talk to both of you." They walked into the kitchen where Mary was peeling potatoes at the table. Despite her age and declining health, Mary insisted on helping out whenever she could. Her silver hair was neatly pinned back, and her hands moved with practiced efficiency. "Emily, you're home early," Mary remarked, her brow furrowing with concern. "Is everything all right?" Emily sat down, her hands trembling slightly. "I need to tell you both something. I lost my job today." Silence filled the room as the weight of her words sank in. Lucy's eyes widened, and she moved closer to her mother, placing a comforting hand on her arm. Mary set down the potato and peeler, her face a mask of worry. "Oh, Emily," Mary said softly. "What happened?" Emily took a deep breath and recounted the events at the gas station. She told them about Lucas, the elderly man she had helped, and how Carlos had reported her to Armando. Her voice wavered as she explained how Armando felt he had no choice but to let her go. "I knew I was breaking the rules," Emily admitted, tears welling up in her eyes. "But I couldn't just turn him away. He needed help." Mary reached across the table and took Emily's hand in hers. "You did the right thing, Emily. You have a kind heart, and that's nothing to be ashamed of." Lucy squeezed her mother's arm. "Grandma's right, Mum. You always taught me to help others when I can. You were just being you." Emily looked at her daughter, seeing the determination in her eyes. "But what are we going to do? We need my paycheck to get by." "We'll figure it out," Mary said firmly. "We've faced tough times before, and we've always come through. We have each other, and that's what matters most." Lucy nodded, her youthful optimism shining through. "I can pick up more hours at the cafe, and maybe we can find some odd jobs around the neighborhood." Emily felt a swell of pride and gratitude for her family. Their resilience and unwavering support were the anchors she needed in this storm. "Thank you, both of you. I don't know what I'd do without you." Mary smiled, her eyes twinkling with affection. "We'll get through this together, Emily. You're not alone." The rest of the evening passed in a comforting routine. They prepared dinner together, the kitchen filled with the sounds of chopping vegetables and clinking utensils. Conversation flowed easily, a mixture of everyday chatter and plans for the future. After dinner, they gathered in the living room. Lucy worked on her homework at the coffee table, while Mary knitted a scarf, her needles clicking rhythmically. Emily sat on the couch, her thoughts a whirlwind of worry and determination. "Mom," Lucy said, looking up from her books, "maybe you can find another job soon. There are always openings at the diner or the grocery store. Emily nodded, appreciating her daughter's optimism. I'll start looking tomorrow. For now, let's focus on getting through this week. Emily felt a glimmer of hope amidst her fears. They had faced challenges before and had always found a way through. When it was time for bed, Emily hugged Lucy tightly. Thank you for being so strong, sweetheart. We're a team, Mum, Lucy replied, hugging her back. We'll get through this together. Emily then turned to Mary, who patted her hand reassuringly. Rest well, Emily. Tomorrow is a new day, and we'll face it together. As Emily lay in bed that night, she reflected on the day's events. The fear of the unknown still loomed large, but the unwavering support of her family gave her the strength to face whatever came next. With their love and resilience, she knew they could overcome anything. Emily was in the kitchen, her hands submerged in soapy water as she washed the dinner dishes. The hum of the radio played softly in the background, filling the small room with a sense of calm. Lucy was at the table, finishing her homework, while Mary sat nearby, knitting a blanket. The routine activities provided a semblance of normalcy, despite the uncertainty that loomed over them. The phone rang, its shrill sound cutting through the quiet evening. Emily wiped her hands on a towel and answered, her voice steady. Hello? Is this Emily Parker? A male voice asked. Yes, this is she, Emily replied, curiosity piqued by the formal tone. My name is David Thompson. I'm calling about an incident that occurred at the gas station where you used to work. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Yes, I remember. How can I help you? There was a brief pause before David spoke again. Emily, I want to thank you for helping my father, Lucas Thompson. He told me how you treated him with kindness and respect, even though he had no money to pay for his meal. Emily's grip tightened on the phone. I did what I thought was right. He needed help. And for that, I am deeply grateful, David said, his voice warm. You see, I'm the owner of that gas station. I was out of town when this happened, but I've been informed about everything. I wanted to reach out personally to express my gratitude. Emily was taken aback. I didn't know you were the owner. Yes, and after hearing about your actions, I wanted to offer you an opportunity. How would you feel about becoming the general manager of the gas station? The room seemed to tilt slightly as Emily absorbed his words. General manager? I don't know. I'm not sure I'm qualified for that. David's tone was reassuring. From what I've heard, you have the qualities we need. You're compassionate, responsible, and dedicated. Those are the traits that matter most to me. Plus, you've been working there for a decade. You know the place inside out. Emily felt a rush of emotions, hope, fear, and a glimmer of excitement. I appreciate the offer, Mr. Thompson, but this is a big step. I need some time to think about it. Of course, David agreed. Take all the time you need. I believe in your abilities, Emily. When you're ready, give me a call back. Emily thanked him and hung up, the weight of the conversation settling over her. She turned to see Lucy and Mary watching her, their expressions filled with curiosity and concern. Who was that? Lucy asked. That was David Thompson, the owner of the gas station, Emily explained, sitting down at the table. He offered me the position of general manager. Mary's eyes widened. General manager? That's quite the opportunity, Emily. But I'm not sure I can do it, Emily said, her voice wavering. I've never held a position like that before. Lucy reached across the table and took her mother's hand. Mum, you can do this. You've been running that place for years. You know how everything works. Mary nodded in agreement. Your kindness and dedication are exactly what that place needs. This is your chance to make a real difference." Emily looked from her daughter to her mother, their faith in her bolstering her confidence. "But what if I fail?" "You won't," Mary said firmly. "You've always risen to the challenges life has thrown at you. This will be no different." Lucy squeezed her hand. "We're here for you, Mom. Whatever you decide, we'll support you." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. Her family's unwavering belief in her abilities was the encouragement she needed. "I'll call him back tomorrow," she said finally. "I'll accept the offer." The next day, Emily dialed David's number with a mixture of nerves and determination. He answered on the second ring. "David Thompson." "Mr. Thompson, it's Emily Parker," she said, her voice steady. "I've thought about your offer, and I'd like to accept the position of general manager." David's relief was palpable. "That's wonderful news, Emily. I have no doubt you'll do a fantastic job. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss the details and get you started." As Emily hung up, she felt a surge of determination. This was a new beginning, a chance to prove herself and secure a better future for her family. She walked into the living room, where Lucy and Mary waited expectantly. "I did it," Emily announced, a smile spreading across her face. "I accepted the job." Lucy jumped up and hugged her tightly. "I knew you could do it, Mom." Mary's eyes shone with pride. "This is just the beginning, Emily. You're going to be amazing." Emily held her family close, feeling their love and support fortify her resolve. Emily stood at the entrance of the gas station, now as its general manager, and took a deep breath. The morning sun cast a golden hue over Riverside, but the familiar place felt different. This was her new beginning, and she was determined to make it work. The first few days were a whirlwind. Emily spent hours poring over the operations manual, familiarizing herself with the financials, and understanding the broader responsibilities that came with her new role. She met with David several times, his guidance invaluable, but always leaving her with more to ponder. Inside the station, the atmosphere was tense. John, in particular, was visibly resentful. His gruff demeanor seemed even harsher now, and he barely acknowledged Emily's presence. Sarah, though friendly, was cautious, unsure of the changes Emily might bring. "Morning, John." Emily greeted him one day, hoping to break the ice. "Morning," John replied curtly, not meeting her eyes. Emily took a deep breath. "I know things are different now, but I hope we can work together. Your experience here is invaluable." John grunted and continued stocking the shelves. Emily knew gaining his trust would take time. Determined to improve the station, Emily started with small, customer-centric changes. She introduced a loyalty program, offering discounts to regular customers. She also revamped the inventory, ensuring the shelves were stocked with fresh, popular items. "Why are we changing everything?" John muttered one afternoon, clearly annoyed by the new layout. "Customers are our priority," Emily explained calmly. "We need to make this place more welcoming and convenient for them." Sarah chimed in, trying to mediate. "I think it's a good idea, John. It might bring in more business." John didn't reply, but Emily noticed his resistance soften slightly over time. Emily also focused on improving employee conditions. She introduced flexible shifts, allowing staff to balance work and personal life better. She set up a suggestion box, genuinely interested in hearing ideas from her team. It was important for her to show that she valued their input. During one of her breaks, Emily found herself talking to Sarah. "How are you finding the new changes?" Sarah smiled, her usual cheerfulness returning. "Honestly, it's a bit overwhelming, but I think you're on the right track. It's nice to see someone care about the staff and customers. Emily felt a surge of relief. Thanks, Sarah. Your support means a lot. As weeks passed, the results of Emily's efforts began to show. Customers commented on the improved service and cleaner environment. The loyalty program attracted more regulars, boosting sales. Slowly, the tension among the staff started to ease. One evening, as Emily was closing up, John approached her. "Got a minute?" he asked, his tone softer than usual. "Of course," Emily replied, bracing herself for another complaint. John shifted uncomfortably. "I wanted to say, I see what you're doing, and it's working. I didn't think you'd last, but you've proven me wrong." Emily felt a weight lift off her shoulders. "Thank you, John. That means a lot, coming from you." John nodded, and for the first time Emily saw a hint of respect in his eyes. It was a small victory, but significant. The biggest challenge came when a major supplier delayed a crucial shipment. The station risked running out of stock, which could lead to a significant loss in sales. Emily had to act quickly. She spent hours on the phone, negotiating with alternative suppliers and arranging temporary deliveries. During the crisis, she saw her team rally together. Even John stayed late, helping to unload deliveries and restock shelves. Emily's leadership was being tested, but it also brought the team closer. "Good job, everyone," Emily said after the last box was unpacked. "I know it's been tough, but we pulled through." Sarah gave her a thumbs up. "Couldn't have done it without you, Emily." Emily smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She had faced the challenges head-on, learning and growing with each step. Her compassionate leadership and dedication were slowly earning her the respect of her team. As she locked up the station that night, Emily reflected on her journey. The road ahead was still long, but she felt more confident and supported than ever. Her family's encouragement, David's faith in her, and the gradual acceptance from her colleagues were all pieces of the foundation she was building. She looked up at the stars twinkling in the clear night sky, a sense of peace washing over her. Emily knew she was on the right path, ready to face whatever came next with resilience and determination. Emily was in the middle of her morning routine when the call came. It was David Thompson, his voice tense with urgency. "Emily, we need to talk. Can you come to the office right away?" Her heart skipped a beat. "Of course, I'll be there in a few minutes." As she walked to the office, the crisp morning air did little to calm her nerves. Something was wrong. She could feel it. When she entered David's office, she found him pacing, a stack of documents spread across his desk. "David, what's going on?" Emily asked, her voice steady despite the growing sense of dread. David stopped pacing and gestured to the papers. "We've uncovered some financial irregularities from years back. It looks like there were some serious accounting errors, and it's threatening the company's existence." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "How bad is it?" David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Bad. If we don't address this immediately, we could be facing bankruptcy." The gravity of the situation settled heavily over Emily. She took a deep breath, trying to process the information. "We need to handle this transparently. We can't cover it up." David nodded, appreciating her resolve. "I agree, but it's going to be tough. The employees will be scared and the customers might lose trust in us." "We have to do it right," Emily insisted. "Let's call a meeting and inform everyone. Then we'll figure out a plan to rectify the issues." An hour later, the employees gathered in the break room, their faces a mix of curiosity and concern. David stood at the front, Emily by his side. "Everyone, we have some serious news," David began, his tone solemn. "We've discovered significant financial errors from previous years. It's putting the company's future at risk." A murmur spread through the room, the air thick with anxiety. John's face was stony, Sarah looked worried, and the newer employees exchanged nervous glances. Emily stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We're committed to handling this with complete transparency. We're going to work together to fix these issues, but we need your support and cooperation." "How did this happen?" John asked, his voice tinged with frustration. "And what does it mean for our jobs?" David took a deep breath. "We're still investigating the exact causes, but it appears to be a combination of oversight and mismanagement from previous administrations. As for your jobs, we'll do everything in our power to avoid layoffs, but we need to tighten our belts and work harder to get through this." Emily could sense the fear in the room. She knew she had to reassure them. "We're going to be open about every step we take. Your suggestions and ideas are valuable, and we'll need everyone to pitch in. We can overcome this if we stick together." The meeting ended with a mix of cautious optimism and lingering doubt. Emily and David retreated to the office, ready to roll up their sleeves and tackle the mountain of issues before them. For the next few weeks, Emily and David worked tirelessly. They pored over financial records, identified discrepancies, and devised a plan to address each problem. They held frequent meetings with the staff, updating them on progress and soliciting their input. Emily's transparent approach slowly began to build trust. She implemented cost-cutting measures without compromising employee welfare, streamlined operations to improve efficiency, and reached out to customers to reassure them of the company's stability. One afternoon, Sarah approached Emily while she was reviewing invoices. "Emily, I just wanted to say that I appreciate how you're handling this. It's not easy, but you're keeping us informed and involved." Emily looked up, grateful for the support. "Thanks, Sarah. It means a lot. We're in this together, and we'll get through it together." Not everyone was as supportive. John remained skeptical, often questioning the decisions being made. "Are we sure these changes are enough?" he asked during a staff meeting. "What if it's too little? Too late?" Emily met his gaze, understanding his concern. "John, I know it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel right now, but every small step counts. We're making progress, and I believe we'll turn this around." Late one evening, as Emily and David wrapped up another long day, he turned to her. "I couldn't have done this without you, Emily. Your leadership and dedication are making all the difference." Emily smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment despite the challenges. "We're not out of the woods yet, but we're moving in the right direction. Together, we'll get there." Emily stood at the front of the gas station, the early morning light casting long shadows across the pavement. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs. It had been months of relentless effort, and the changes were starting to show. Inside, the atmosphere was different. The once tense and uncertain air had begun to lift, replaced with a cautious optimism. Emily walked through the aisles, noting the neat shelves and well-stocked supplies. The loyalty program had gained traction, and customers were beginning to return, drawn by the transparency and renewed commitment to service. "Morning, Emily," Sarah greeted her with a smile as she restocked the snack section. "We've had a few more regulars sign up for the loyalty program this week." "That's great news, Sarah," Emily replied, her smile reflecting a shared sense of accomplishment. "Every little bit helps." John was at the register, his demeanor noticeably softened over the past few weeks. He still had moments of skepticism, but he was more engaged and cooperative. "Emily, do you have a minute?" he called out. Emily approached the counter, curious. "What's up, John?" "I've been thinking about ways we can improve our inventory management. Maybe we could track sales trends more closely to reduce waste, he suggested, his tone more collaborative than confrontational. Emily nodded, impressed. That's a great idea, John. Let's sit down and discuss it further. Your experience here is invaluable. As they worked together, the bond between Emily and her team deepened. The employees began to see her not just as a manager but as a leader who genuinely cared about their well-being and the success of the business. The suggestion box, once a mere formality, overflowed with ideas, each one a testament to their renewed investment in the station's future. The customers, too, responded positively. Emily made it a point to be visible and approachable, addressing concerns and welcoming feedback. One afternoon, an elderly woman named Mrs. Green approached her at the counter. "Emily, I've been coming here for years, and I have to say, the changes you've made are wonderful. It feels like a community again," Mrs. Green said, her eyes warm with appreciation. "Thank you, Mrs. Green. We're committed to making this place better for everyone," Emily replied, her heart swelling with pride. David Thompson's role evolved as well. He was more present, working closely with Emily and the team to steer the station back on course. The financial irregularities had been a wake-up call, but they had also provided an opportunity to rebuild on solid ground. One evening, after a particularly long day, David and Emily sat in the small office, reviewing the latest figures. The improvements were clear. Sales were up, expenses were down, and customer satisfaction had increased significantly. "You've done an incredible job, Emily," David said, looking at her with genuine admiration. "I couldn't have asked for a better partner in this." Emily smiled, feeling the weight of their journey. "We did this together, David. The team, the customers, they all played a part." Their collaboration had brought them closer, and Emily had grown not just as a manager, but as a person. She learned the value of patience, the strength in vulnerability, and the power of a shared vision. David, too, had transformed, becoming a more hands-on and empathetic leader. As the months passed, the gas station continued to thrive. The transparency and honesty that Emily championed became the cornerstone of their success. Trust, once shattered, had been painstakingly rebuilt, creating a foundation stronger than before. The station had become more than just a place of work. It was a testament to their collective resilience and dedication. Emily felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that their efforts had not only saved the business, but also strengthened the community. As she walked home that evening, the sun setting in a blaze of colors, Emily felt a quiet contentment. The journey had been arduous, filled with challenges and uncertainties, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. The gas station, once on the brink of collapse, was now a thriving hub of activity and trust. Through their unwavering commitment and collaborative efforts, Emily, David, and the entire team had achieved something remarkable. They had rebuilt trust, not just within the company, but within the hearts of those they served. The gas station was stable once more, a beacon of hope and perseverance in the small town of Riverside. The news spread quickly. Emily's story of turning a struggling gas station into a beacon of hope and integrity had caught the national media's attention. Articles were written about her, highlighting her ethical leadership and dedication to both her employees and the community. She received numerous invitations to speak at various events, her story inspiring many. One morning, as she prepared for another day at the gas station, Emily's phone rang. It was David. "Emily, did you see the article in the Times today? They called you a symbol of ethical leadership." Emily smiled, a mix of pride and humility washing over her. "I did, David. It's overwhelming, but also very rewarding." David chuckled. "Well, get ready for more. We've been invited to a leadership conference next month. They want you to speak about our journey and the changes we've made." "That's incredible," Emily said, her mind already racing with ideas for her speech. "I'll need your help to prepare." "Of course," David replied. "We'll work on it together." The days leading up to the conference were a whirlwind of activity. Emily balanced her responsibilities at the gas station with preparing her speech, determined to share her story in a way that would inspire others. The support from her family and colleagues was unwavering, their belief in her fueling her determination. When the day of the conference arrived, Emily stood backstage, her nerves a tight knot in her stomach. She glanced at the audience, a sea of faces waiting to hear her story. David stood beside her, a reassuring presence. "You've got this, Emily," he said, his voice steady. "Just speak from the heart." Emily nodded, taking a deep breath. As she walked onto the stage, the audience erupted into applause. She stood at the podium, the bright lights shining down, and began to speak. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Parker, and I want to share with you a journey that started with a simple act of kindness." Her words flowed naturally, recounting the challenges and triumphs she had faced. She spoke about the importance of transparency, compassion, and integrity in leadership. The audience listened intently, moved by her story of resilience and determination. After her speech, Emily received a standing ovation. She stepped off the stage, her heart full of gratitude and pride. David met her with a smile. "You were amazing, Emily. Truly inspiring." "Thank you, David," she replied, her voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you and the team." As they mingled with the conference attendees, Emily was approached by numerous people, all eager to share how her story had touched them. It was a humbling experience, one that reinforced the impact of her journey. Later that evening, Emily received a message from Lucas. "I heard about your speech today. Can we meet? I'd like to thank you in person." Emily's heart swelled with warmth. She had not seen Lucas since the day she had helped him at the gas station. They arranged to meet at a nearby cafe the next afternoon. When Emily walked into the cafe, she spotted Lucas sitting at a corner table. His face lit up with a smile as he saw her. "Emily, it's so good to see you," he said, standing to embrace her. "It's great to see you too, Lucas," Emily replied, hugging him tightly. "How have you been?" "I've been well, thanks to you," Lucas said, his eyes shining with gratitude. "I've managed to get back on my feet. Your kindness that day changed my life." Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. "I'm so glad to hear that, Lucas. You deserve all the good that has come your way." As they talked, David joined them, his presence adding to the warmth of the reunion. "Lucas, it's an honor to meet you," David said, shaking his hand. "Emily has spoken so highly of you." "The honor is mine," Lucas replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Emily's compassion saved me, and it's clear she's done the same for so many others." They spent hours reminiscing and sharing stories, their bond strengthened by the journey they had all been part of. She had grown from a dedicated employee into a respected leader, her path marked by integrity and compassion. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the cafe, Emily felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She looked at Lucas and David, feeling grateful for the experiences that had shaped her and the people who had supported her along the way. "Thank you both," she said softly, "for everything." David smiled, his eyes filled with pride. "We're just getting started, Emily. There's so much more good we can do." Emily nodded, her heart brimming with hope. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. With the support of her family, friends, and community, she knew they could face any future challenges together. And that, my friends, concludes the incredible journey of Jade and her fight for justice. From the shadows of fear to the light of triumph. Her story is a testament to the strength and resilience that resides within us all. Thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this emotional roller coaster. If you found inspiration in Jade's courage and determination, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more powerful stories that move and inspire. Remember, every story has the power to change lives, including yours. Stay tuned for our next video where we dive into another incredible tale of resilience and hope. Until then, keep fighting for what's right, support one another, and never underestimate the power of your own story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.